Have you ever been in a situation where you're surrounded by many of your friends or a group of people who are daring you to do something you're unsure about? This pressure you feel can be overwhelming and very stressful. This is called peer pressure, which often affects many adolescents and influences the decision making process, their self image, and mental health. Today, I will be discussing how peer pressure influences decision making during adolescence and how it effects can persist into adulthood. For my credibility, I have reviewed and read many peer-reviewed scholarly journals over this topic. For two of my sources, I used ProQuest as my research database, and for the other two, I used a search engine to find the National Library of Medicine and the University of Texas, Dallas to get all of my information from. Today, I will be discussing the three major effects of peer pressure. First, I'll discuss how peer pressure influences decision making. Next, I'll explain how emotional and social factors intensify peer influence. And lastly, I'll explain how susceptibility to peer pressure continues into adulthood. First, we will begin with the basics and discuss how peer pressure significantly shapes adolescents' decision making. Adolescents are more likely to take risks when surrounded by their peers. This is often seen in high schoolers and teenagers who tend to make decisions based on what their friends or what everyone else in high school is making, whether it's good or bad. And according to the current directions in psychological science by Dustin Albert, a time when individuals spend an increasing amount of time with their peers, peer-related stimuli may sensitize the reward system to respond to the reward value of risky behavior. Adolescents' brains are still developing in areas that control impulse and judgment, making them more vulnerable and easy influenced by their peers. According to Israel Odole with the Department of Psychology, Faculty of Social Science, Federal University, he discovered that adolescents who perceive supportive parenting are better able to resist negative peer pressure and cope healthily. This graph from a study in 2013 done by Dustin Albert shows the brain activity when people make decisions alone versus with their peers watching them. The x-axis is resistance to peer influence. Higher values mean the person reported greater ability to resist peer pressure. The y-axis is the ventral striatum peer effect, which is the difference in activation in the ventral striatum when peers are present versus when they are alone. The red represents adolescents, the green represents young adults, and the blue represents adults. The downward slope shows a negative correlation. As resistance to peer influence increases, the ventral striatum peer effect decreases. Overall, this graph shows the individuals who are more influenced by peers show stronger peer related activity in the brain reward region. This then brings me to my second point, and I will now discuss the emotional and social dynamics and how they make peer pressure such a powerful source. Many adolescents often feel emotional stress when trying to fit in, and this is again seen in most high schoolers who tend to do this through fashion, through their actions. Like, some people think that just because they don't have all these nice clothes or expensive clothes or the most trend clothes, they think that they can't be friends with certain people or that they're not going to fit in, when that is never the case. But as stated in an article, Fitting In, Exploring the Emotional Dimension of Adolescent Peer Pressure by Jeffrey Lashbrook, which found that peer pressure is not only behavioral, but also deeply emotional, as many teens fear rejection and social isolation. This is just basically saying that not only can peer pressure come from the way that people are acting, but it's also normally more something like deep and emotional, and teens feel like that if they don't have the right clothes or if they don't make the same decisions as all their friends, that their friends are not going to want to be friends with them anymore, and they just fear the rejection of everyone else instead of worrying about what's best for them. And another effect is the parenting style and peer influence and how together they shape coping behaviors. Once again, Adole states that adolescents who perceive supportive parenting are better able to resist negative peer pressure and cope healthily. This also then leads us into the point 3, which we tend to associate peer pressure with just adolescence, but it's important to know that these effects don't disappear and follow into adulthood. Even adults remain susceptible to their peer norms and group approval. This is showing that Many people believe that after teenage years and adolescent years that all of these things just go away and the feelings of having to fit in and making decisions based on the people around you just go away. But this is stating that these things can continue into adulthood. But yeah, and in the article, Study Peer Pressure Susceptibly Lasts into Adulthood by Stephan Fontenot, asserts that peer pressure susceptibility can extend into adulthood and affect lifestyle, work, and health decisions, which again just shows that these effects can still have a deep effect on adults, not just adolescents. The persistence through adulthood highlights the fact that social acceptance and feeling the need to belong in remains a powerful motivator throughout people's lifespans. And peer pressure is often a very powerful motivator, like stated, in high schoolers and teenagers. And this is just highlighting the fact that it can still be a thing following into adulthood and have an effect on people's whole life. And in conclusion, in our society today, it is evident that most adolescents face peer pressure that often is carried into adulthood. While we can't escape the influence of others, we can learn to recognize it and recognize when it's wrong and when it's right. Understanding peer pressure isn't about just about resisting bad decisions, but it's learning how to live independently through our own values and not what others think or believe. This just shows that we need to stop caring about what other people think and make decisions based on our own, because many times adolescents tend to make decisions based on their peers, and sometimes it can be very bad decisions and lead them into bad spots. So this is just saying it's important for us to make decisions independently and learn to recognize when we're not. Thank you.